back in the tackle cave, and as you can see by the jacket, it's pretty cold here in Virginia, so that gives me some time to go through my tackle. Unfortunately, after several hours per day for several days, I'm still stuck in the soft plastics. So I thought I would go through some worms that I had unearthed that I had completely forgotten about, that used to be part of my arsenal or used to be pretty popular that you may not have heard of. I was going to call them a guide to wacky worms, but I realized wacky worm has a particular connotation, particularly since the introduction of the Sankaku. Nevertheless, I am going to start with a worm that was made for wacky worming. Before the Sankaku, a lot of you may not have heard it. It was kind of a staple in Texas where they would use a trick worm or something else. And my friend Kelly Jones at Kickerfish Tackle, who I used to spend a lot of time with down at Falcon, he was very generous with trips, came out with this worm. And as you can see, it has a little T-shape or genital on it where you could actually stick the hook in. So you could use a regular EWG hook and have it be completely weedless and still have it operate like a wacky worm. Kickerfish no longer makes the baits, but if you can't find these on eBay or in your local tackle store, you can look. Nories, the Japanese company, has something very similar right now. So obviously it was a good idea that may just have been before its time. Kickerfish had a number of other baits. Probably the most popular or most well known was their kicker craw, which Kelly Jordan used to win tens of thousands of dollars, including an Elite Series tournament on the Potomac. In this same box of hidden treasures, I found these Conquistador Tackle wired worms. And at first I thought they were the Westy Worm, which was a standard Western bait. It wasn't called Westy because it was from the West, it was because they were made by a guy named Westfall. But, you know, when I think of Arizona and those desert lakes, I think of colors like Aaron's Magic or maybe even Morning Dawn, super natural colors. And this is one of the least natural looking worms there is. You may not be able to see it, but they came in all sorts of bright colors. You can see there's a bright blue or purple jig head here. It had two little hooks on it, and guys like John Murray, Western legends like that, fished these all the time. Westy worms, if you go online and look, they're still made in all sorts of crazy colors. Black with a yellow stripe, purple with a fire tail. So obviously someone's still buying them and they're still working. Might be something you want to try out if you have a lake that doesn't have all that much cover on it. I checked and Conquistador Tackle is still in business. I can't find these wired worms. I can find them on their website, but on Tackle Warehouse they only have some of their other creature baits, craws, and chunks. Something I might want to get out. I don't remember where I bought these. It must have been either in California or off of eBay or some online tackle store. Something I never fished and need to get out. Then there's this box. You can see on this end it says Hooky Worms. Hooky Worms was sort of a colloquial name for the do-nothing worm, which Jack Chancellor introduced to the world when he won the 1985 Bassmaster Classic. At that point in time, a lot of people didn't fish a Carolina rig or even know what it was, and Chancellor went out and he won with a Carolina rig, but he wasn't throwing what we might use today, which would be probably a lizard or a brush hog or a centipede. He was using one of these little worms, and it's kind of hard to see there, but you can see it's a 4-inch centipede style worm with two what look like panfish hooks connected by a piece of braided line running through the middle. I bought a bunch of them back in the day. I actually bought some of the do-nothing worms off of eBay. Here's some in strawberry. Unfortunately, by the time I got them, the hooks were so rusted that they would break off with even the slightest bit of pressure, let alone a 2 or 3 pound bass. So I went, and there were some other companies that made them. There was a guy called Fish Getter in North Carolina. There was also a guy named Lloyd Devers in Alabama who made what was called the Fish Finder worm. I believe he later sold that to Mann's. So you can still find them. There are a couple places online today that make a very similar worm, either with one hook like this one or 2 little hooks like this one. It's a great bait when fish are striking your Carolina rig short or even a split shot rig short. It's a great bait to give to beginners. With those 2 exposed hooks, you just have to expect that you're going to lose a few over the course of the day. Not all that big a deal. They're not that expensive. Whether you call it a tourist worm or a Yankee worm or a fish finder or a do-nothing, it's a fish catcher. And it's one of those things that we've forgotten about as we've gotten more advanced. I don't know if I would throw this strawberry one, but I might throw one in watermelon or green pumpkin. So I need to put this box back in the boat. I need to put some of these back in the boat. They may be weird worms, but they were on the market for a reason. They were popular at one time for a reason. So maybe I've overcomplicated things and I need to go back to some of those old and forgotten lures. Check them out.